Hello everyone, and thank you for watching our video here on all things IPAC. It's just to update you, although you're all well versed in IPAC and our regulations through the CDHO. We just wanted to take some time to go through some of the details that we do here in the clinic. So if you're doing some continuing education with ODHA or CDHO, you can rest assured with the knowledge that we are doing all the things that we should be doing. So we're going to talk about the clinic policies and procedures and how they work in conjunction with the clinic manuals and our IPAC manual. We'll review the IPAC binder, the contents, where to find it. We'll talk about water testing and the results of that. We'll talk about the hydrum efficacy testing that we've started doing. We have the new Dentsply PureVac HVE system. We'll talk about our beautiful new sterilizer. We'll talk about PCDs and record keeping, our recall policy, monitor rotations, etc. So our IPAC policies and procedures, you've probably seen Jillian posted our policies. There are 2 documents that she's posted to the manually managed course on DC Connect. Those are updated regularly as things change. So you can have a printed version. I do have those in my office. And then anytime it's updated, we can add the new document onto the DC Connect course. These documents, there's 2 of them because they're adapted from the Public Health Ontario, the checklist for dental offices. So each recommendation from Public Health is addressed. So it's a bit repetitive, but we do have a statement for every recommendation. And often it refers to the clinic manual or the IPAC binder for more information. So we wouldn't detail in the policies everything about our C&D procedure, but we would make a statement and then say refer to the clinic manual for more information. Same with our sterilizer quality monitoring. We might make a statement on that with the policy and then say refer to the IPAC binder for more information. The IPAC binder is separate from the policies because it has so much documents inside it. We can't make a digital version of that. We do have 2 of them. One is in the dental clinic in SW 107, and a duplicate binder is kept up in Julie and my office up in the A-wing. Again, these are updated regularly as new information arises or as we implement new products, we would put information on those into the binders. Inside this binder, you would find a device inventory and manufacturer instructions for any of our reusable devices. We have operating manuals for the sterilizers, the instrument washers, Lubrina, samples of our quality assurance logs, maintenance logs, the actual logs and load monitoring for the sterilizers and the hydrum. All of that would be located in the research room. And as well in this binder, we have our IPAC guidelines. So if you need to refer to any of the documents in clinic, we do have the public health documents. We have the CDHO guidelines as well as the RCDSO guidelines printed. Our clinic water testing is done quarterly, usually in between semesters as time permits. We use the E-line water testing products that are available through Germafene. So if you have seen in the ODHA presentations that feature Linda McClartney, this is the product line that they carry and recommend. And Julie and I did quite a bit of research. We chose this one for its simplicity, basically. It seemed like a good product that tested what we needed to test. But also worked for our clinic with us having 2 clinics, 24 chairs each. This one is quite simple. It's user-friendly. It works in conjunction. So our E2O product that the students use as a daily treatment, that treatment doubles as a shock. So we can just add a higher concentration of this, shock the lines as needed. Each water line requires 2 vials, one yellow and one blue. The blue vial tests for total bacteria and fungi, and the yellow vial tests for E. coli and fecal coliform. And a positive result, so it would turn either of these colors a pink color, and that would be 200 colony forming units or greater. Fortunately, we've never had a failed yellow. There is no fecal coliform found in our water. We did have some fail when we initially started testing the water last year. A couple cavitrons failed, and I think that was more my user error, that I would hook up the cavitron and get the sleeve. As soon as the water started to run, I grabbed the water sample and I didn't purge it for the recommended 2 minutes from Densifly, and we did get a fail on that. So after purging it correctly and retesting the water, we did get a pass. So I actually thought that was pretty interesting. I'm just making a spin on my own error. But this way, we can recommend to the students, we're not just saying they need to purge the line. We can say we've tested it, and that water coming out has to be drained out because it could contain bacteria. That said, 200 colony forming units is still on the lower end. I think 400 or 500 is still through the municipality is still an acceptable level. Not that we would want that, but this product here tests for 200 colony forming units or greater as a fail. If we were to get a fail, then we have a policy written up that we wouldn't use the water line until we get a positive result. So fortunately, we haven't had any of our air water syringes or client cup lines fail. But what we would do is shock the lines, retest, and not use that water line until we had a negative result. This is just some instructions on how to do it. It is very user-friendly. It gives you a step-by-step here, but it's pretty simple. We wear gloves so that we don't contaminate the vials ourselves. We get one blue, one yellow, we add the water, we label it with a Sharpie, and we incubate it for 24 hours. The results are only good plus or minus 4 hours. So we check it the next day, and we record it in a binder that we keep in our office here in the A-Wing. We do have in our clinic policies, if you have had a chance to look at those, we have a water boil advisory statement in there of what we would do. Hopefully that will never happen. Moving on to our hydrums. As you all know, we have 2 hydrums in the clinic now, which is great. There's no overflow that is sitting around waiting to go through. We don't need the ultrasonic in the clinic anymore, which is great because it's eliminated the need for gowns in the recirc room. It's reduced the amount of traffic through the recirc room. We haven't had, touch wood, we haven't had any needle stick injuries since we implemented this last year. So it's been a great change. SciCan has come out with efficacy tests. So as you can see here, this pink little plastic housing will go inside the hydrum, and the before will look like this purple. So if students ever say to you, why is this in the hydrum? You can tell them we're just testing it. They can ignore it and place their cassettes in and around it. And we run it through with a typical load once a week, and it will come out looking like this. If it comes out with still purple and smudges on it, then perhaps our detergent line is kinked, or there's something going wrong with the hydrum. So we do this for each hydrum once a week, and we keep a log of it in the recirculation room. As many of you know now, we've moved to Densifly's PureVac HVE system. This is recommended by Densifly to reduce aerosol use while cavitroning. We think it would be a much better product than what they were using. The Tipidillies were tricky for the students, and the couplings we found just weren't fitting well. They were rusting easily through the sterilizer. So this was a great new addition that we have started over the reading week. So students came back from the reading week to these here. The students have been instructed to barrier, like put a handpiece, the hosing barrier over this area. Students in semester 1 purchased a 3-pack of these mirror tips in their kits. So they will be writing their name in a sterilization approved marker, their last name likely, here on the handle, and they will pouch and class 5 it. The rest of the students did not obviously have these as part of their kit. So we have many of them that they say DC on them. The students will use our tips until they graduate and go on into the real world. So what students have been instructed to do as far as infection control with these, like I said, they need to barrier the hosing. When this comes off, they should be having a look inside the lumen of it or the handle. They shouldn't be just plopping it right into their instrument container. If there is blood or something on it, they should be having a look and wiping it with a wipe. And then maybe they should spray it with their Hufridi spray. And then we'll place it into the loose items basket that goes in the hydrum. So students can't just put these in a bag. They have to be cleaned before they can be sterilized. So they must go through the hydrum in the basket that they put their XCP and other loose items in. Then they wipe down this hosing. So once this tip is off, they will be wiping down the entire length of the hose and the housing here, the coupling. They need to give that a wipe, and again, they'd be doing that twice to clean and then disinfect. The coupling actually comes apart. So here's some instructions on how they can do that. It says to do it as needed in the manufacturer's instructions, but we feel that if we tell the students that, they will never do it. So if they have used this high volume, either with the Cavitron or with hand debridement, they should be taking this apart. And you can see in the pictures here, there's a little metal coupling that comes out, and they should be wiping around the inside, wiping the coupling, and then putting it back together. This is our beautiful new large capacity sterilizer. It's a Steris Amsco 400. So this company, this is considered their small sterilizer. Ironically, for us, it's massive. But they deal with quite a lot of hospital grade sterilizers, pharmaceutical companies. So this is on the smaller end of their sterilizers, but it is large. It can hold up to 75 pounds. So our instrument cassettes are 1.6 pounds, so we can fit quite a lot of packs and pouches in there. We would never quite reach that capacity, which is great. It is much more efficient than a Midmark. It's a steam flush pressure pulse sterilizer, and it sterilizes at 132 degrees Celsius for 4 minutes with a 30-minute dry time. So to put that in perspective, our PAX cycle on a Midmark, by the time the sterilizer conditioned, heated, sterilized, and dried, it was an hour and a half. So now this one, by the time it heats up, sterilizes, and dries, it's about 45 to 50 minutes. So a huge improvement as far as time, and they come out bone dry. It's an excellent sterilizer. I wanted to just give a background too on the steam flush pressure pulse. I had a hard time wrapping my mind around when we had training on the sterilizer why we didn't need to run a Bowie Dick. And the gentleman that came to do our training, he's with Steris, but he's also the chair of the CSA, which is where public health and CDHO take a lot of their information from. So he was an excellent resource and a wealth of knowledge. So he was explaining, when I hear dynamic air removal, I think we need a Bowie Dick. But pre-vacuum sterilizers and steam flush pressure pulse are both versions of a dynamic air removal, but how they sterilize is different. So a pre-vac is the one that needs the Bowie Dick, and that is because these removals of air drop below the ambient atmospheric pressure. And so you would need to do a leak test, because as the pressure is going below zero, there's a chance that air could leak into the chamber. So that buoy deck is to ensure that the vacuum is adequately removing the air from the chamber and air isn't being reintroduced. What we are using is the steam flush pressure pulse. It conditions the load through a series of pressurizations, but they stay above atmospheric pressure. So no vacuum is drawn and the pressure stays above atmospheric. And so there's no need for the buoy dick, as air can't be reintroduced into the chamber. As far as our daily load monitoring, for all sterilizers in the clinic, a PCD will be used in every load. But what that PCD looks like and what is inside the PCD will vary depending on what load of the day it is and what sterilizer it goes in. So many of you are familiar with a Midmark or a Statum that we can make in-house PCDs. An in-house PCD being a typical pack plus at least one instrument heavier with a class 5 or a BI, and we would label it PCD BI, and that would go in a tabletop type of sterilizer. But as our new Steris is a larger capacity sterilizer, we need to have a different type of PCD for it. We can purchase pre-made PCDs, which you will see in a video later on. We were purchasing pre-made ones. So when you see a video of me unloading the sterilizer, you will see that pre-made has a BI and a class 5 in it. But we have found through Steris, this is more cost effective. So this is a reusable test pack. This has 200 uses in it, and we do have a cycle count on it. It's a very large baton. It is similar to what Maxil has come out with. These guys had it first, but Maxil has come out with their own smaller version. This one is quite large. We will use it for 200 cycles, and then maybe we could do relay races with it, using it as a baton. Inside this, in the first load of the day, will be our BI and our class 5, and then subsequent loads, it would contain just the class 5. It's a solid metal tube with an orifice at one end where the steam will penetrate. Inside this solid metal tube is a spiral lumen, and it's the only pathway that steam can get into. So it will be the absolute hardest thing to sterilize within the load. This spiral lumen coiled up, steam has to travel through, but I found this to be interesting that if you were to uncoil it, this lumen is approximately 3 feet long at 0.6 millimeter diameter. So that's equivalent to 3 feet of a 20 gauge needle that steam has to travel through before it can reach our class 5 or BI. So it's an excellent test device that we will be using in our Steris PCD. For our tabletop sterilizers, we're still able to use our in-house PCDs. So those are just made in the clinic. They are, like I said, a typical load plus one instrument. The first load of the day for each type of cycle on a Midmark would have a BI and a class 5, and subsequent loads would have just the class 5. We have moved to 20-minute biological indicators. The line is called Celerity, and it's made through Steris. They are no longer glass. If you can see here, it's a plastic little rocket ship. And we put this through the load. We have a large incubator. It has 8 wells. Not that we would ever use that much, but some places like hospitals and such would. So the top of the label looks like this. Actually, that's an old picture. It would say Celerity instead of Assert. But it's a 2-ply label, so we can take this off and put it in our record keeping, and underneath is an indicator that it's been exposed to steam. So we take this out of our load, and instead of cracking now because it's not glass, this is done through a twist and flick. So initially there's no liquid in this vial, it's all in the cap. We would process it, expose it to steam, and then when it has cooled, we twist the cap and we flick, and that flick releases the media and the bacteria into the base of this well, and we put it inside whatever well number we want, and we click on the button for that well number, and within 20 minutes, oh man, please ignore this, it used to be 40 minutes, but we've got an even better one now, so it's 20 minutes that it will incubate in this well, and within 20 minutes, the screen will appear. Some of you heard the alarm that used to go off for our control to say that the control had a positive result. The new one doesn't beep, which is great. It will just read the screen and say whether it was a positive or negative result for that well, and we would record that in our binder. So there is no risk now for a BI recall policy. By the time we empty the sterilizer, let it cool, label it, and put it away, that 20 minutes has already passed that we've verified the load. However, we are still going to recommend that students track their instruments just because they will graduate, and a lot of offices are not going to be using 20-minute BIs. So they should understand that if they're using instruments that the biological indicator hasn't been verified, that they should be somehow tracking that for the sake of their BI recall policy. This is just a snapshot of what our sterilizer screen looks like. We have the cycle here. You'll see a video in a minute showing how we unload and load the sterilizer. But instructors and students are not expected to start or stop the sterilizer. There should be minimal interaction. If there ever is an alarm going off, it has happened, there is usually a button here that will show up that says silence alarm. So you can always press that. It's a touch screen, and then SOS for help. We have a new clean instrument cart downstairs. We wanted ones with perforations so that as we unload onto it, the heat and steam can release before, with it being a solid stainless steel, then it would just reintroduce moisture into the pack. So we now have these carts to cool the load. These carts will never contain any contaminated instruments, so we always stress to the students that the contaminated instruments should stay over on this side of the recirculation room in the cupboard or on the counter, and clean items are only ever on this cart. This is a quick video of how we unload the sterilizer. So as you can see from that video, we have large gloves that cover up to the elbow, as it's a large chamber, and you could risk burning yourself. So they look a bit ridiculous, but they work well. Anytime we do anything with that sterilizer, open the door, close the door, start a cycle, finish a cycle, it prints everything on this printer. So we initial as we start the load, and then whoever empties the load, we initial again. and it shows our time, temperature, pressure, and all of our parameters here. This printout goes in conjunction with our sterilizer quality assurance log. So we will eventually take these from the roll and staple them to the corresponding day. And it shows here the date, what load of the day, what cycle on the sterilizer. So the students don't track this information, that's just for our tracking. They track the load number, but it all works together with this printout that shows the time that it reaches, the temperature, the pressure, the cycle count, who loaded it. We verify the class 5, we have our BI information. And so these are kept down in the clinic for the semester, and then they're moved up to our office for about a year or two. And then after 2 years or so, they are moved over to inactive storage, and we will keep them then for the recommended or the mandated 10 years. The monitor rotations that the students complete with myself or Julie, they're valuable teaching time that we wanted to give the students hands-on information and still keep them with their hands in reprocessing, even though we have taken quite a bit of it on with the use of the hydrums. We don't want them to graduate being unaware of IPAC and proper flow of a recirculation room. We started it in semester 3, but going forward, we're going to start it in semester 2, as we just felt it was too late for them to be getting the information. Some of them weren't doing their monitor rotations until week 6 or 7 of semester 3, and they need to be able to speak to their client on how we can assure them that the instruments are sterile. And so in semester 2 now, they work on each other for about the first 7 or 8 weeks. So during those first 7 or 8 weeks, we will have everyone do a rotation where they hear about our quality assurance and get their hands on in reprocessing. If students ask you, they must wear their clinic clothes. I've had some students change out of their scrubs and come back in nice, pretty clothes, and I think, what are you doing? They need to wear their clinic attire. They need to bring safety glasses and the utility gloves. I can provide them with masks. They're not only emptying the hydrum and wrapping instruments, they learn about the sterilizers, about quality monitoring, public health, IPAC lapses. We give them quite a bit of information through that rotation, but they also do then have a hands-on component where they empty the hydrum, they open and inspect each kit, they make sure that the mirror is disassembled, it's not cracked or broken or dirty, that the instrument tips are clean. Any areas of moisture they dry with a lint-free cloth. They add a class 5 and then wrap the cassette. But during this rotation, students aren't responsible for unloading sterilizers or releasing loads. They often do see me start the sterilizer, so that is helpful for them, but they're not responsible for unloading the sterilizer. We're noticing that a lot of students are taking liberty with what they can wear underneath their lab jacket. We had originally said, a white t-shirt. We don't mind what the t-shirt is, but they really should be wearing something appropriate. Some of them were wearing tiny tanks, and it's just not appropriate to go get their clients. So we're looking at getting maybe even something included in their initial bookstore kit, that they can get a few of the Durham College t-shirts. Whether it says dental or not, I'm not sure, but going forward, it would be nice if we can start to crack down on what it is they're wearing underneath that lab jacket. If students are, for whatever reason, using our implant scalers, our scalers, we do have instructor scalers in there. So if any instructors need to use them at any time, that's what they're there for. But the students need to make sure they go through the hydrum. They can't just pouch them without cleaning them. I already mentioned this, but they should be spraying and wiping the HVE tips if they're visibly soiled. Students seem to be confused on the dirty clean side as far as markers and tape in the recirculation room. If they're preparing for clinic and writing their name on their tape and getting their blue wrap ready, they really shouldn't be doing that on the dirty side. We have clean tape and a clean marker on the clean side. So that is being reinforced through the monitor rotations. Another thing I've noticed is that the tops of the units aren't being cleaned. They're supposed to do that as part of their cleaning and disinfecting, but I'm sure you've noticed the tops are dusty and maybe some gummy marks on there from the hand sanitizer. So if you notice that, feel free to tell the student to clean it. And that is all. Thank you so much for listening. I'm always here to answer any questions. If you have any concerns or any suggestions for our processes, then we're always willing to improve. Thank you.